So for the next session, we wanted to give some time for interesting and important issues that we don't have time during the busy business hours. So I hope all of you brought surprise questions for our speakers to engage with them in our panel discussion. Shay Rojansky, Nick Jackson, Chris Durkin, Bertrand Le Roy are here to answer your questions, and our moderator is Sébastien Ros.
So I assume we'll take questions from the audience first, not from the internet. Yes, we'll do that. Anyone has questions for anybody in the panel or in the room? No trolling, Zoltan, okay? Just serious questions.
I don't know if it's right for the panel, maybe it's more for Sébastien. What's gonna break in the 3.0?
Good question. And I have a question about the question, actually. So I was about to ask everybody if we should move to .NET 10 in 3.0, in the main branch. Don't call it 3.0, but the main branch. And I created a discussion, actually, on the repository. Nobody answered. Just Isham said his preference. And nobody else cared. And if nobody cares, I will just do what I think is good for the project, right? And say, because I started the discussion, so I win. I suggested 3 things. And one of the things I suggested was to just use .NET 10 in the main branch and drop .NET 8 and .NET 9 because I don't see real reasons to keep targeting those past TFMs. Shay might have reasons, but remember it's an application we are shipping. Okay, we don't care about shipping NuGet package. We ship as NuGet packages, but we ship the application itself. So we can just target .NET 10 and be done with it, with the old ones. I don't know. Maybe you have reasons to not install .NET 10 on your machines. Does anybody has reasons to not to install .NET 10 today? Because it's available, it's RTM, it's supported. So yeah, that will make things simpler for us and build times faster than just targeting multiple TFMs. By the past, we were targeting 2 TFMs because there was always an LTS and a STS, the long-term support and the short-term support. So we wanted to target the new one, which was short-term support, but also the old one because it's the only long-term support that will be supported further than the short-term. So we had to keep the .NET 8. But they changed that like 2 months ago. The short-term support now gets supported as long as the long-term. So .NET 9 will stop being supported on the same day as .NET 8. .NET 8 will last longer because it started earlier, but they will end at the same time. So there is no reason to keep the 2 of them already. So we should just keep .NET 9 because there is no reason to keep .NET 8 anymore. So for .NET 10, it's the same thing. Now it's the LTS, so it's refreshed. We can keep .NET 10. And when .NET 11 ships, we can even say, let's move to .NET 11 because it will stop at the same time as .NET 10. So I think that would be a good strategy for us in terms of maintenance, just one framework, always the latest. And it doesn't mean that the Orchard 2.0, which is the supported branch today still releases on .NET 8 and 9. Okay, we could just ship .NET 9, but we will keep 2.0 on .NET 8 and 9 and have the main branch on .NET 10. And once we release Orchard Core 3 on .NET 10, we'll stop updating, backporting stuff on 2.0. That's the idea I have, and I submitted a discussion so everyone can just chime and give their opinions. And the question, which was, what's breaking in 3.0? First, the SDK. You will need the SDK 10, which is not a big issue. There are lots of breaking changes, API-wise, feature-wise, but there is always a way to migrate. So every time we do a PR that creates a breaking change, there is always someone documenting that. And always someone who's ensuring that there is no PR that is merged that doesn't have a release notes explaining the breaking changes. It should not impact the module developers. They are already when we do breaking changes, it's mostly for stuff that is used internally of the on the repository, and there should not be much impact on the module builders. There are, but they are very easily manageable. There are not many things. Have you ever been broken by a change in Orchard 2, 3?
Not yet.
And I think that's the case for everyone.
In Orchard 1 it happened,
yeah,
1.6 or 1.7 broke everything, or something like that. So somewhere around that time.
In Orchard Core, we are quite good at, when someone reports something like that, just backporting or fixing it. Like even we've, like I know that in the past month there was a backport that broke something else, so we just fixed it again, and so we are quite reactive to maintaining the 2.0 branch with working features. Yeah. And by the way, the PR to merge .NET 10 is green, is ready, so Antoine could just push the button. I updated it earlier, so if we want to ship .NET 10 now on the main branch, we can do that now. Someone asked me earlier, I don't know who it was, maybe, oh, Michel, I think, like when does .NET 10 ship? Yesterday. While we were talking, they shipped .NET 10. And while we had the Aspire session, they shipped the new Aspire during the session of Aspire. They waited for us to show that. It was 5 a.m. in the US, and someone, Jose, if you know Jose, he just woke up to publish Aspire at the same time as .NET 10.
Because Sébastien was here talking about
I'm not doing that, no. I don't care.
All right. Lots of videos that work. Can you tell something from behind the scenes?
Need to ask a question about EF and ASP.NET Core. I mean, I don't know. Well, most of developers from ASP.NET Core work on Aspire today. And Blazor is developed by some developers. Javier, you've seen him, Mark, because you checked. That's in the ASP.NET Core repo. I don't know what are the goals for the next release. Usually, how it works is when we ship a release, like yesterday, okay, everything has been shipped, we think about what will ship next year. And this process usually starts in January, February. Okay, let's decide, because it's already February and we have to stop coding in August, because then there is stabilization. So everyone is super motivated to say, okay, we have a few weeks to decide what we'll do, because now we have 6 months to do it, because we already lost 3 months, we have to stop 3 months before we ship, so we have 6 months in a year. But usually, the discussions, they last until May, June, and then, okay, now we need to start doing the thing, because we just have 2 months left to do the features. That's what happens all the time. And Shay, you tell me if I'm wrong, but in ASP.NET Core, that's how I see that.
it's very, I mean, it's become much more agile in general, just in the sense that we, at least in EF, we spend a bit less time up front, like debating, putting together an official plan and then executing it. It's more like, okay, our general directions are going to be, yeah, maybe
Talk to that.
we have, we no longer do like a very detailed roadmap. We more like, let's say we have 4 high-level big rocks or things, and then we start executing on them. And then, because we already know, like for example, last year we had our plan, and then suddenly AI comes along, and then this has to be done for tomorrow, and the interruptions and the general, let's say, chaos and what has to happen is a bit increased because of AI as well, which push this kind of process even further of being basically more agile and planning upfront a little bit less. But overall, yeah, that's true. So like I think we start, in EF at least, we start developing maybe a bit earlier, but there is an off season where we do sometimes a lot of technical debt and build infrastructure and various things that we would never do otherwise. They're not really like big features. And then, I don't know, at some point around January, February, we start actually developing like for the next release, usually.
So you mentioned that last year, well, this year, it was AI cut the plans, like, okay, we need to focus on that, it's the huge hype. The year before, do you remember what cut everyone off from working on feature?
No.
SFI,
Oh,
security.
yeah.
Security. We spent, everyone in Microsoft spent like 3 months just security stuff, like everything.
We were a little bit less impacted than the others, but we were also.
You mean in EF? Yeah, I know in
EF.
ASP.NET Core and all the things around.
Yeah, you guys are, of course. Yeah.
And all the deploying the services, the governance,
that's
the
still going
management.
on today. Like a lot of work inside Microsoft, inside .NET, is about making sure that component governance and security and all the repos are properly set up and all the build processes and all that stuff. There's a lot of effort going into this.
So yeah, last year it was like February, let's decide what we want to do. And from February to June, okay, we have security to do. So even the plans that we made, nothing happened until June because security first. It's still security first, but there is less things to do.
Less urgent things to do, yeah.
And for ASP.NET Cores, we have talked about some stuff to release for next year. There is one thing that might be done, but I can't even say, because it's an internal project right now and might not even be public, so I can't say. But it will be cool, so because I had the idea and I have the prototype and it's in my private repo and it's great. So I want people to ship that. It's been waiting for 3 years. I've been advertising the thing for 3 years and everyone knows about it, and maybe we should have that. And some big people in Microsoft think that it should be there. So
you can't say it and not say what it is.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Because no. So
You can tell me after.
I'll tell that I will love the idea, I'm sure. I will tell him after. And then he will tell you, crap, it won't be. It's not a big issue, but I just don't want to commit to anything or say anything that you might like or not like and whatever. But it will impact you, I believe. Like you will all like it. Yeah, it's the web stuff. So we'll see.
So
Bertrand will tell me.
Yeah.
Bertrand will tell you. I will tell you, and then you tell them if it's good.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
it.
And I don't know anything else otherwise because I'm not part of the Blazor team. I don't know what they intend to do, and it will impact a lot of users, I assume, because Blazor is the main tech in ASP.NET Core stack right now.
They did do a passkey support, I know, in ASP.NET.
So in
right?
.NET 10, a new feature was the passkey support.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's a big
McKinnon.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something we should add probably in Orchard Core, like new features from .NET 10. There aren't that many, but we should look into what we can add then. If we just target one framework, there is no limits. Because if we are targeting also .NET 8 or .NET 9, we can't do that, right? Or we have to do big if-else switches, and it's hard for us to maintain those. So we could say, let's add passkey support in Orchard. That would be great, yeah. The next, I don't know. I have no idea. Either in the MVC stack or the minimal API stack or the Blazor one. I have no idea. Perf is always a side track, like, oh, we always want to make it faster, right? And this all on Shay. Because today, ASP.NET Core is only slow in whatever Shay does. But at the same time, if we didn't have what Shay does, we'd be nothing in terms of this.
It's bad, but at least it's there.
So the idea is that we do benchmarks and we run them using PostgreSQL because the main benchmarks use PostgreSQL. And he writes the driver. And today, if we compare ASP.NET Core to other stacks, where we lack in terms of performance, where we have the most margin of gains is in the driver, the NPG SQL driver.
That's a complicated discussion.
It's very hard to make it faster, but that's where we could make maybe some gains to be even faster. And but just realize for the people who've used Orchard 1, okay, and now use Orchard Core, and Matteo and Davide and the Buzz people who have used Orchard 1, you must feel, well, sorry, Chris, and Olympic, like who didn't? Like maybe Michel and others, you have never used Orchard 1. So that's awesome actually, because
Are there any benchmarks that you could still run on?
oh yeah,
those?
I did.
Yeah, you did?
I did it, yeah, because it
How
was like,
much faster is it?
on my machine it would be like, at the beginning, right? Remember, Antoine, I was sharing the numbers, I was showing the numbers, like 100 requests per second or 400 requests per second on Orchard 1, and I would get 20,000 on the Orchard Core. No, it was huge. And then latency also was much better. No,
Yeah.
And you know it because
Initial hits.
in Orchard 1, we would not be able to run the websites without caching. Caching is enabled by default.
Yeah.
In Orchard Core, we don't even have a caching module because we don't even need caching. So it will be even better, but nobody cares because you click,
Good
and
enough.
super fast, right? And the load, who has a site that can outpace the load that Orchard Core can sustain? Like nobody. Like so we don't even need caching. So whatever you do with your EF Core caching, who cares? There is no SQL caching or in YesSQL. Still fast. Boom. You see? Not the wrong issues. You are fixing the wrong issues. Thank you.
I'm not going to respond. Maybe there's another question in the crowd.
Thank you for your answer.
I was wondering for EF Core, There's been talk about supporting document databases.
Yeah.
Is that still on the roadmap?
It's not just on the roadmap, it's a significant part of what we've been doing, and specifically in EF10, but also in EF9. So we call this a multi-year journey. Like, this is not something that's done in a single year or in a single release. These are two things. A, it's supporting document databases, and B, it's supporting document patterns inside traditional relational databases as well. As I said in my talk before, there's a lot of JSON support. Basically, they've merged a little bit, right? In terms of the feature set, you can do the same things that you can do on a proper document database, you can do also on SQL Server and Postgres, right? So what we're doing every release right now is improving EF Core's ability to basically do JSON, to basically do document patterns. And in EF, like, we did a big push in 10 to improve even further. There's a lot in SQL Server that's changed, but also in general, also for Postgres and other databases. But basically in EF Core today, you can have a table in your database, and it has something that you can say, this type is now mapped to JSON, like a whole tree, like a graph of objects, and it will just work. And you can query that in link queries. You can ask where this is, something, and it will translate to SQL that is specifically for going inside JSON, like a very specific sort of syntax in your database, and it just works. And the same thing, like, for example, in EFs, when you do a change, let's say you load something from the database, if you change just one property inside a big JSON document and then you do save, we'll patch that property inside rather than sending the entire JSON document. This is not fully always supported, and there's all kinds of complicated questions. What happens if you patch two things? Is it better to do two things, or maybe find a common denominator and send that whole thing? There's many interesting questions around this, but that's a very big area of investment. For example, what I worked on for EF10, this is a new thing. We have something called execute update, which allows you to express SQL update, and you update all rows where this and this and this. Now you can update inside JSON documents in EF10. This is one of the features. So you can say, for all your customers that have some property like that, go into the JSON document and change this to that, or whatever. Like, you can arbitrary changes. That's an example of something we did in EF10. So that's very, very much on our sites.
Thank you. And so, database service like MongoDB, Cosmos DB?
Right. So Cosmos DB, we actually maintain the EF Core provider so we own it. By the way, there's Cosmos themselves have a link provider for querying only. That's not us, but we also have an EF Core provider. So there's two ways to do link for Cosmos. I'm just saying because there's sometimes a bit of confusion. So there's a Cosmos provider that we invested a lot in for EF9. EF9, we kind of rewrote like a half of it, let's say. I spent a lot of time on this to clean it up, to make it good, performant, all of that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of work needed, but it's really, really very usable. And it has a lot of very... what I love about EF Core, it's able to do things that are very specific to Cosmos. You're just doing link and stuff, but behind the scenes, in Cosmos, for example, if you do a point read, there's a thing called read item. If you know the ID of the thing and the partition key, because Cosmos is a very sharded database, then we do an optimized point read API, which costs a lot less and has a lot less latency. So we can identify link queries which are transformable to this high performance variant, and we do it under the hood for you. So that's another, it's another priority. Mongo we don't own, so Mongo themselves developed the EF provider for Mongo. This one I would say is in a slightly less advanced state in terms of all the link that it can, handle, and all, not necessarily link, but features of EF, but it is there, and we're in touch with them quite a lot. So EF does handle these things. It definitely needs still a lot of work, but it's there.
Perfect, thank you. One more question. So Portrait uses SQL, which is DocumentDB on a relational database. Do you see any opportunity to switch to EF Core at some point? Would it be useful so that we could ultimately use MongoDB or others instead of relational databases like SQL Server?
First, there is no way you can remove YaSQL. Or you do Orchard Core 2. Okay? You fork Orchard Core and you create a new thing and you update all the modules. And so yes, there is a way, but forget about the past of everything. The database, the data you create, the same gap between Orchard 1 and Orchard 2, Orchard Core. Okay? So you have a new product. then what you would do is exactly the same thing that we do in SQL, but with EF core. Because Bertrand is here, like the model that was used in Orchard 1 is every single part is a table, okay? Which means when you want to query a content item, because a part has fields, and parts are isolated. So a table, a part, a table. So when we want to load a content item that uses 10 parts, we have a query with 10 joins. And it's super slow, okay? So that's why we use the document. Now we have a document and 10 properties in the document for each part. Much better. It's one query by ID, boom, done, super efficient. And so that's the document. And that's why also you ask, why don't we support document databases? Now, if you tell all the users here that they can't use SQLite or PostgreSQL anymore, they have to use MongoDB and or Cosmos DB. Like, what would it be otherwise, by the way? I don't know. But because you need querying, so it will be MongoDB or Cosmos DB. How many of you would prefer to deploy on MongoDB and Cosmos DB versus SQLite, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MySQL? Who here would prefer that? You like to be able to use a SQL database, I assume. It's cheaper, it's understandable, it's easier to maintain, you can migrate stuff. You still have SQL for the rest that you don't need documents, it's the same SQL. You can do ETL, and it's still raw data. Sometimes there is a JSON document, but you can still project all the good things out of the JSON document because that's what SQL does. Okay, that's why I think it will be hard, and I'm not sure there is much benefits in doing that.
I will add a completely off-topic answer to the same thing. Because it's a panel, so we can do whatever we want. There is another way. I built a CMS that actually doesn't even necessarily use a database. And the way you query it is that you do MapReduce. So you can do whatever you want. There are many ways to skin a cat.
But whoever uses SQL knows that MapReduce is what SQL does. You have your documents that are stored in a document table, and you have your MapReduce indexes that are managed by SQL, but you really define .map, .reduce, like in the code in SQL. That's what it is. So what could be done is what SQL, the initial SQL was doing before the one we use, which was abstracting the store. So SQL, that, as we use today, requires a SQL database. But before, it required just anything. It worked with blob storage. Okay? We could store documents in a blob storage and do the querying somewhere else, in Lucene. Okay? Just handling the indexes, for instance. But I decided to just don't make it too hard on the developers and everything. Just support SQL databases and be done with that. But yeah, we could also decide to just do documents, whatever the store is, and do queries in whatever we want to query in. More complexity, more abstractions, and maybe, yeah. The question is, at some point, you need to stop abstracting, otherwise it's slower, it's harder to maintain, it's more complex, and yeah, that's the... I had questions also, so that's why I wanted to interrupt you, but you asked me. I have questions for Chris and Nick. If you want, and one after the other, because you will have different answers, okay? You are the pros here. You're the only ones who work. We are just having fun and playing and doing nothing. And we all like what we are doing, okay? So if there was one thing you would change or would like to have in Orchard Core, what would it be? In any domain, like business domain, like deployment, coding, usage, design, Chris, or whoever is ready.
I mean, for me, the admin experience, so it's a demo today, maybe a redesign of that, more of a modern approach to it maybe. Obviously there are other CMSs out there and they've got a lot more sort of modern look to them.
Just the look or the behavior, the feeling?
I think it's not just it's not the look, it's the flow and it's the whole user experience, I think. Saying that, the good thing about Orchard Core is at the minute is it's bootstrap. It's a very familiar sort of interface that people are used to. and I like the simplicity of it as well. I think some CMSs go a little bit above and beyond, and they introduce animations and extra tabs, and people get lost in that navigation structure. So I think keeping it simple as it is, but maybe again modernising that.
What's one example of CMS that you like the flow of?
Umbraco is quite an interesting experience. I feel that it's very close to Orchard's system. You know, they have sort of content types, and you can create documents and fields and things like that, and that has an interesting experience. I think there are elements of that where you get lost as a user if you're starting to work with that windows are opening, and then next window open, before you know it, you've got 50 modules open and you don't have a clue where you are. So again, with Orchard as it is at the minute, never feel like you get lost in that when you're building content types. I find it's a really easy to follow solution. But again, yeah, it's just, I think from our client's point of view, when we're trying to sell Orchard to them and say this is the system we use, they've seen other content management systems. Well, this one looks a bit simplistic, but this one over here has got all this lovely stuff. And I think that's the sort of thing we come against time after time. And we say, well, you don't need all this fancy stuff. That's just getting in the way of delivering the content that you want to deliver. So showing them the simplicity of that and keeping it that simple would be, yeah. But yeah, just a modern refresh. And maybe Tailwind as well.
Tailwind.
Yeah.
In the admin.
In the admin, yeah.
In a similar vein, but I would say just make the default Orchard experience more opinionated and more geared towards content creation and less developer focused, or at least give the option to select your version, have like a stripped down, super powerful, super flexible Orchard, which is the one we've always known, and then have a more opinionated, dumbed down, limited content creator version.
Like a recipe that is it
Yeah,
just a recipe
yeah,
or is
yeah.
it more code?
Something that's more focused on making the theme easier to create and set up, customizing fonts, colors, beautiful presentation, so that the average business owner could use Orchard to create, basically to do the thing that we are paid to do.
For us, we'll be looking more at online stuff like Squarespace.
Actually, Hostinger. I would look at Hostinger. It's a relatively new one. It uses a lot of AI. It's easy to set up a site in a very short time, and it has a lot of features. It has so integrating more designer-focused, end-user-focused stuff into the Orchard admin. I also think we should do a weekend hackathon and get as much of the stuff in as possible. No, seriously, we should dedicate some time and get that stuff.
Or maybe they should dedicate some time to give that stuff.
It's going to be a
but at
joint
least we've
effort,
seen Nick in the meeting and as a PR, so that's the beginning of.
But we
something.
haven't seen the code.
Yeah, the same kind of work that the Edge company, like also in UK, Edge, there is a lot of modules.
Yes.
And they do lots of games websites and yeah, they create modules on the side which are super interesting, and lots of people I'm sure here are using their modules. That will be great to see some of them in the core.
Yeah, just choosing which of that stuff to include in the core, I think would be good. Because a lot of it is very applicable to a wider audience, but then some of it's very specific. So.
Yeah. And we don't accept the specific. Like Bertrand came in with the idea, like if it's not for 90% of the users, we don't need that in core. It's in module.
Well,
no?
We could have different user audiences. I think the more end user is the most unrepresented for Orchard. The person who just wants to create a beautiful site easily and who's going to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes evaluating Orchard, and then they're going to switch over to something else if it doesn't meet their need.
Yeah. And it won't, as it is today.
Yeah.
If you stay 5 minutes, then if you don't stay 5 hours or 5 days, you don't understand what's the point, right?
Yeah. So
it's sad, but that's what it is.
There's one thing, one of the, I think Alka mentioned that we have like innovation days at Buzz, and one of the things that we looked at was taking the editing experience and showing the user the page of actually what it looks like. So when they add a block, they see it on the page, they click on it, and then the panel loads out the side and they can fill in the content. We looked at that as a potential option. It went a bit longer than we anticipated, didn't we?
The IDs blocks and stuff, they're not the right ID. When you come to the preview, I think there was a problem with how the preview was kind of, every time we received a new version of the page that we created, the IDs weren't sticking to what they should be or something?
Yeah, that was one of the main issues, wasn't it? But what we were trying to do there was because, again, when they add things to the bag part, it's that visual representation. They have to visualize it in their head what it's going to look like on the front end. They've got the preview button and they can switch between it, which is great. But
what do you mean switching? Because I saw you switching, but no, have them on the same screen.
Oh yeah, if you've got a big screen, but like if you're working on a little laptop and
the experience is magical. Like as you type, you see the thing changing, and it's the real rendering.
It is good. Yeah. So basically, what we wanted to do, we wanted that, but like in the admin, so you go to that page and you can sort of add the block to the page, and then that would be there, and they click on it, and then you could then fill out the thing, and then you would see it, and the client.
The preview. And then you edit in line.
Yeah. So it's almost like a page builder, almost the clients sort of want a little bit, but it's not a page builder because, again, structured flexibility. We show them those blocks. They can only do what's within the range of that block. It's not letting them build any complex layout they want to. So
the backtrack from the preview to the.
What's that, sorry?
So. When you're in the admin, you see the changes reflected immediately, but you'd like to be able to select something from the preview.
Yeah, but like I say, the preview would be in the admin area, so you go to edit, and then you would see that there.
So are we talking about the inline editing?
Yeah,
we've tried that about 50 times.
But not as in like you'd click on the block like the title and then change the title there. You'd click on the block and then. A panel open at the side, and then you enter that. That's the sort of process. Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Keep them still separated, but
absolutely, yeah.
Have more interaction.
Yeah, and then that user then doesn't have to have that guesswork. They can literally see the changes. Right. And like I say, they have got the preview, and if they've got a bigger screen, they can obviously have it side by side, which is what we do. So, and that's what we demo as well when we're showing clients.
Maybe also making it when you edit something on the left, maybe it could highlight something in the preview. Or
flashing. Oh, that moved.
Yeah, some animations.
As long as it's not distracting.
And sound.
Yes, and fireworks. But not distracting.
Not distracting.
Yeah.
And then to continue on the same question, if Bertrand, there was one thing you think should have been done differently, not like can be improved, but this was a bad decision. Whatever you know. I
So you've been talking about shapes, and I was kind of surprised about that, because is it really that complicated of a concept, shapes?
The implementation is complicated, and yes, it is.
Okay.
Because there are lots of technical decisions and features that are used, but they are not intuitive. And yet they are required for theming. And that's a discussion I had with the ASP.NET team, actually. Because one day they wanted to go to theming, because people ask for theming in ASP.NET. Yeah. And they asked me, hey, what do you do in Orchard? And why is it so complicated? And I went in a meeting for 1 hour with the PM, Dan, and the main dev at the time, Ryan Novak, who rewrote the ASP.NET 5 core. And I went it was super easy, because I okay, usually they want to change, let's say, the menu. They want menu items and change how it's displayed and the link or not the link. And I went, how would you type that? And what do you need? And so on and so forth. And then, but maybe they want to change in a site like the position or the organization or the text or the and every time I was asking something, we went and rebuilt shapes, because you need a file that has a name, but maybe the file, it changes based on the culture. So you have link-fr and link-es, okay? And then you have, but maybe you want it for this customer and this customer, so then you have another dash. We have alternates in and all these things, they were like, okay, we can't do that in ASP.NET Core because it's too many concepts.
So I was going to say maybe one general theme is that naming is hard. So we took a lot of concepts from existing systems like Drupal, a lot of Drupal concepts. And Drupal concepts are also mostly badly named. And we did some of them right. I think taxonomy is a good name, for example. It really describes what it does. Shapes, maybe not. Maybe it should be. Maybe you should just have talked about view models because they are really view models for your parts. But yeah, naming of certain things could have been way better. Can't think of anything else from the top of my head. Probably in an hour I will have a start on different ideas.
But you thought about technical. Maybe this could have been also business decisions, like how was it marketed?
Yeah.
What kind of features?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So maybe one thing that not everybody in the room knows about is how our chart began. It was a Microsoft internal project at the beginning, and we did some things right. Like from the start, the idea was that we thought that this should be owned by the community, and not by Microsoft, and it was not an easy message to get through at Microsoft at the time. Microsoft wasn't doing almost any open source back then. So we kind of set up the whole thing so that the community could steer the project as soon as Microsoft would lose interest, which was inevitable and of course happened. So that we did really well because that's exactly what happened. It happened as planned. Yeah, other than that, there are many things that could have been done differently business-wise. I wish actually Microsoft would have stood behind it for a little longer and had believed in it as a way to test new things from ASP.NET, use it as a sample, as an experimenting ground. Yeah, that would have yielded very different results, I think.
It makes me think about something you should investigate at Long Beach. The .NET Foundation, they have a new website.
Again?
Yeah, I saw that
Again.
because I saw a bug and I'm like, what is that? That's a new website.
And it's not Orchard.
And it's not Orchard. And it's not even .NET, I think.
And Orchard is what, the third most popular project at the foundation? Second?
Well, at least it's the oldest, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, yeah.
But I don't know. You checked. You saw that.
.NET Foundation wouldn't exist if not for Orchard.
I don't remember.
We built the Orchard one, like previous.
They used Cloud Scribe at some point when John Galloway was the director, and then they switched to a static generation, and now it's a dynamic site, I think. And yeah, just saying.
That's like the third website in the last 6-7 years.
Every time there is a new director, there is a new website. That's what the director does. For every company, right? Oh, let's rebuild the website. Or let's use a new technology. Or if there is a new tech lead in a company, let's use this new language and this new CMS, whatever.
But that's where the time is spent.
The economy is working, that's okay. Like.
So Bertrand, you mentioned that you wanted the community to own Orchard because Microsoft would sooner or later lose interest, which happened. Was that based on previous experience? And if yes, are there any projects that you could talk about, at least in broad terms?
Oh, well, I'm glad you're asking me now and not a year ago or 3 months ago. Well, Microsoft has a habit of embracing, extending, and extinguishing. That's always been the case, and it's still the case. I can think of a couple of current examples of that. No, I'm not going to go into specifics, but yeah, taking the most successful open source project on your platform and redoing it, the origins of entity framework, for example. I can think of a few ORMs that were pretty popular before that we used in Orchard, by the way, in Orchard 1. I mean, it's all for the best because entity framework is great now, but the beginnings were a little more chaotic. And
it's still active. That's also, they didn't distinguish. Oh, what do you say?
Is it still active?
Yeah.
And Hibernate?
Of course.
Oh no, I mean EF Core.
And Hibernate is a thing.
Also,
people
yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
being updated. I'm not aware of EF Core being an extension, like it was a competition.
Yeah.
They created their own thing. And
That's what I mean. I mean, it's been the case more than once that Microsoft, looks at what is a popular open source project and redoes it, and usually that results in the open source project kind of dropping in interest.
The customers ask for it.
I know.
So I have two things to quickly say to this, but that's not the question actually. So first of all, like Seb said, one of the things I hate the most really is when we get at Microsoft where somebody asks for EF Core or for anything else, oh, I need this and this, and I say, oh, but there's this great open source third-party package, and they say, no, we want Microsoft to own it, and I ask why, and then you have all kinds of answers. Sometimes they have my company policy requires it to be Microsoft. Sometimes they say, oh, if it's not by Microsoft, it's not good, or we can't trust it, although Microsoft has also abandoned a lot of products, so why would you, I'm just saying, these are all answers. I hate it. I absolutely hate it when this happens. I think that's one of the main problems of one of the big problems of the .NET ecosystem is getting past this thing. It's very hard. Other ecosystems don't have a Microsoft, right? Yes. We do. It's very good, and it also has some very bad effects. So that's just to answer that thing. But I'll also say that at least today, I can tell you that in internal discussions, for us to actually start a new project when there is something already there, we run away from it like fire. Like really, really. Like in my area.
Really, what should be done is actually contributing to the project. Without trying to
exactly.
take it over.
I'll just give a very quick example. I've been working on vector databases this year quite a lot, and the thing, I've literally written a lot of the Milvis is a vector database, Quadrant is a vector database. I've written these SDKs. The point was, the constant discussion was, how do we end up not owning this thing? Yes. I'm okay to write it, to write code, contribute, help build it, but then somebody needs to take it and do something with it, and it's very, very hard to get somebody to do it. So I'm just saying, this is first my very small area of Microsoft. There are many other areas of Microsoft where cultures are different. In my area, there's really an attempt to not build or not own anything that we can not do, and where possible to contribute where we can. And I think that happened quite a lot. Poly, by the way, the resilience framework is a nice example of where we needed something better, and Microsoft engineers spent quite a lot of time contributing to the project. It's not like now a Microsoft project, it's still a community project. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm not contradicting it in any way.
Microsoft is it's composed of many parts.
Exactly, which have guns against each other, and
the attitudes differ from one team to the other.
Absolutely.
C'était quoi la question que la posée?
Thank you. I just want to link it to Grace. You have contributed to Orchard Core, but you are not core maintainer, so probably you can answer, how do you feel about influencing Orchard Core? How much do you think it's your own as well, versus a case where there's a vendor that has a product and then you have a customer? So, how much different is it? How much do you enjoy being able to influence the project at this point?
Honestly, I feel pretty disconnected from it because I haven't done any Orchard projects in a while, but I still look to it as my favorite CMS. So anytime I have any kind of work that's CMS related, it's definitely the first place I'll go to. And if I ever want to contribute to an open source project, it's the first place I'll go. I think it's the best CMS out there. And I think there are lots and lots of companies creating amazing things with it. If we could just pull that all in somehow and and use it more. Because I've worked on projects that had really cool customizations and things, and I'm sure everyone in this room has. So if we could somehow get more of it to filter back in, I think that would be great. But I definitely don't view myself as a consumer or a client of Orchard, not at all. It's very community to me.
So yeah, I think for us, and I had a conversation last night as well, and it's one of those ones where we did all this work with Orchard, and like I say, we've been working with Orchard for 14 years anyway, at least. And I think we've used it, and we always thought, are we using it the right way? Are we missing something here? And we add our own little extra flair to it, and we think, yeah, this is good. This fits our purpose. So it's that question whether would this work for anyone else? And I think this event, today and yesterday, we're sharing what we've done. It's kind of validated. Maybe we are all on the same page. And that's something we've probably missed over the last couple of years. So in terms of influencing it, we'd love to, we have suggestions, but we probably don't want to come across as we're judging anything that you guys have done. Orchard Core is awesome. It is amazing. We absolutely love it. We've always loved using it, and the potential of it is amazing. So, but yes, we would love to be more involved with getting involved with decision making, or just offer our opinions. Any way we can, really.
Are the meetings too late for you?
No. We can join the meetings. I have to get better internet connection, because last time my internet wasn't great, was it? And you were seeing a lot of pixelated mess at the beginning.
Thank you. And just a quick second question to Bertrand.
It's ready, no?
Should be all right.
Okay.
To Bertrand. Now that you are bored, will you do something with Orchard Core?
That's a good question. So I currently only operate small personal websites, but I do have a small business building keyboards that needs a commerce functionality that I believe is in Orchard Core now.
There is a commerce module, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I'm saying that because if you don't know, I started writing that module, and now it's managed by Lombic with a lot of talent, and I'm grateful for Lombic finishing the work on that module. So yeah, I might build a little keyboard business website with Orchard Core. Yeah. But my other sites run on decent CMS, which is...
Yeah, you could build a new CMS for your website. Like if you create a game, you build a game engine for the game. So if you build a site, you need to build a CMS for the site.
Yeah, but I don't have time to build a commerce.
You have all the time. And build an ORM also. Because that's what I did. I built an ORM and a CMS.
Operating system level, like you need to start from the ground up.
I'll show you what I'm doing.
We still have 5 minutes left, so
we can sing? No? Okay.
Slight change of topic, I guess. Back on entity framework.
Yeah.
Some of the optimization knobs you mentioned that nobody uses. Firstly, it's great we don't have to use them because it works great out of the box. But are there any telltale signs that us, maybe as average developers, should be looking for that tell us we need to be using those knobs, or places we should look to say, okay, maybe think about this more deeply now?
In the thank you. In the EF Core docs, there's a section for advanced performance. So I recommend anybody who's using EF Core and has any needs and performance in general, go read it first. First of all, it's a good way to just see what some of the common pitfalls are, and just to be a bit more aware of the usual common problems. Like there are some patterns or anti-patterns that people sometimes do. It highlights them, and it's good to be aware of them. But the main thing there is that in general, EF core doesn't mean that you don't look at your SQL or that you don't look at your database performance. So my first thing to say for you to know is obviously know how to track your database performance, right? You need to be monitoring your database, finding the hot queries. You should be understanding, are your hot queries running too slowly? Maybe they're not, maybe they're fine. Like maybe you don't have a performance problem. Don't create also a performance problem where there isn't. Like that's a big classic, right? Of, like you're looking for something to do or doing a premature optimization kind of thing. But once you've zeroed in on a query, that's where things start to get interesting. Once you already know that you have, and EF has some good features for helping you to zero in on a query. For example, I'm just off the top of my head, if you look at your SQL in PG or in SQL Server or whatever, there's still a difficulty of knowing how to correlate that back to link, like which link thing is that, right? So we have a tag function where you can say on the link query, you give a certain static string, and that gets outputted as a comment in the SQL in SQL Server, so that you just only for the purpose of allowing you to correlate this. So suspicious queries or hot queries, it's very good to kind of instrument your queries in this way. And then you once you've already zeroed in on a link query, then it's a matter of understanding what your problem is, and hopefully our advanced performance docs can help you like with knowing which kind of knobs might be relevant for your thing, right? And one more thing that I'll say in this area is EF Core itself, so there's also all the matter of observability in .NET and in EF, right? So first I would actually start with observability in the database itself, because that's where you know really, like in terms of here I have a very, very poorly functioning running query or whatever, you'll know that from the database. But there are also some things which can go wrong inside .NET and EF itself, and there I really recommend getting familiar with OpenTelemetry and all of the recent years' capabilities. So EF itself emits metrics, OpenTelemetry metrics, that are especially useful for stuff going on, like the cache that I was talking about here. You can get cache hits and misses in metrics for that cache that I was talking about. Right. If you've done something bad that defeats the cache, that happens. Like you can do a mistake, an anti-pattern that causes the cache to be defeated, and every time you're compiling that query, that's an awful perf problem, and you will know that via that metric, for example. That's metrics. Then you also have tracing, which usually EF itself doesn't do OpenTelemetry tracing, because that's taken care of better at the lower level in NPG SQL, for example, or in SQL Client or whatever. So definitely turn on tracing and look at which part, like what is actually taking time in your web request or whatever, and so on. That gives you some, these are sort of like, that's kind of like the catalog of tools, right? And then at the end of the day, if you know you have a problem and the docs don't really address it, obviously just get in touch by opening an issue on GitHub, and that also gives us a signal that we're missing guidance, and maybe we should add it to our advanced performance docs or something like that. I hope this answers more or less. Yeah. It's tough it's really tough. Database performance is very hard, as you probably know. And as you said, and then I'm shutting up, like we really try hard to just make everything work well by default. And in many cases it does, but there are simply no perfect solutions for some of these problems. Yeah.
I would say it's far less mysterious now. Have you seen it playing?
Is it? I would think it's more mysterious now, but anyway.